Toyota guest line. You can follow him on X at Frank Sanders 81. Proud Auburn
sure is
alum.
Yeah.
You obviously have winning the NCAA tournament, right? You filled out your bracket. You didn't take Duke or someone else, right? You took Auburn.
I took Auburn in probably bracket number
7.
Probably number 6.
Ye of little faith, Frank. Ye of little faith.
When you were at school there, being the superstar you were, and you obviously never paid for a drink. You were an athlete. You had probably the Camaro, the Z28, whatever you were driving back then. But was the basketball program good when you were there?
Yeah, our basketball program was we were decent, I would say. I wouldn't say it was great. You got to remember Shaquille O'Neal was still at LSU at that time, and he was coming through the Southeast Conference pretty heavily. But our basketball team was pretty good. We actually got Chuck Person, who actually ended up being one of the played in the NBA a couple of years. Lucci Norris is the rifleman, right? Yeah, Chuck, his older brother and his younger brother came through Auburn, and so Auburn had some good players. But again, the schools at that time in the early 90s, you guys know exactly who they were. It was definitely Kentucky, Duke, UConn, Connecticut at that time. Those guys are probably the better programs in the country at that time.
So you as a superstar football player there, and you obviously you supported the men's basketball team, right? You went to all those games because I'm sure they went to yours, right?
Yeah.
Come on, you did not.
No, I really did. No, real talk. We had our basketball program was, again, when you realize that the history of our basketball program and a guy by the name of Charles Barkley, Auburn athletics, really had some good athletes, some good stars that came through. I lived in my dormitory at the time, Sewell Hall, and repeatedly on multiple occasions, the football team and the basketball team stayed in the same dormitory for the most part. It was only just basically, those two sports that supported that lived at Sewell Hall. But Rock, I mean, one of the greatest things about being at Sewell Hall, you could see Bo Jackson come back, Joe Cribbs would come back, Charles Barkley walk through the hallways, Frank Thomas would come through the hallways and come back and meet the former guys that was there. And, so we had a bunch of guys that walked through the hallways that, so we had a good relationship with all sports that was there. Remember, I did play baseball, so Frank Thomas coming through the hallways and Bo coming through the hallways were always one of the best moments at Auburn.
Why you got a name drop? I mean, seriously.
So he is, man.
I just come from a university with a lot of great players that that just kind of did some special things in athletics.
Yeah, see, at Ohio U, I had Al Bundy. I had who else did I have? I had
Mike Schmidt come from Ohio.
Schmidt,
yeah.
I mean, it's about it.
Those are some great names. Hey, you can't beat Al Bundy though.
Arsenio Hall and Arsenio Hall.
Oh, that's good. So Frank, is it just a matter of just out? You look at the SEC back then. Look at all the blue bloods you mentioned. Is it just a matter about spending the rest of them for the SEC to have the prominence that they are right now when you watch this basketball going on?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, you look at the ability to bring the money in from the SEC in itself, the ability now with the NILs and these the ability to offer players certain money that's at certain at any level you want to offer it to them at, and so you're just going to get the best athletes to come to your organization. But again, the SEC, when you guys, when you just look at the football programs and look at how the dormitories look or how the facilities look and what they offer these guys in multiple, layers of uniforms and colors and the way they are celebrated on their campuses and things like that. So the SEC runs itself at a high level business. Some of it's better than the NFL in itself. And without a doubt, when you got those programs, you're going to get the best athletes. And just alone tradition, the NCAA literally changed everything it had, from travel to allowing NIL programs to changing conferences easily, and Texas coming to the SEC, Oklahoma in the SEC. Those are universities that we never thought would happen, but because of the money and the level of competition that was being played there, they were always pretty much guaranteed to be viable for the national championship or the BCS at that time. They changed all that because of that, and so now you're just seeing, once you got the money, the players are coming to the programs and rock there. Again, you've been to many SEC schools and you've seen what the programs look like and how the fan base is.
Mm-hmm. So, Frank, do you feel, which we're probably going to see in several years, super conference in football, and also a super conference in basketball, because the have and the have-nots, obviously, with the mid-majors will struggle because of NIL. Can you see go down that road as well, participating with the super conferences basketball, or for those that aren't in big conferences to formulate their own and just leave the mid-majors out on their own?
Unfortunately, you will see that. And I mean, that's just based upon the fact that there are a couple of things we look at and we say, the level of competition is one thing, but not just the level of competition, the ability to watch the discrepancy in how many guys get hurt. So you got to protect players that are not at that, when the bigger schools are playing the smaller schools, you tend to say, hey, you big school laid off after the first half and then take those guys out so your second and third team can get in, because of just the ability to, just to watch how it plays out. The money that's on the table for the schools that's in the big conferences is absolutely ridiculous, and it's only getting better. And then when you add the betting that's on the table right now, you want to see the best players versus the best players, so you can get a better product out there. And when you watch the SEC, just watching the SEC last year was absolutely crazy, because it felt like a bowl game every week, the way the schedule was set up. And so I think that's just the competition you want to see. Unfortunately for those schools that, we can watch guys develop and become those major upsets that might happen, that will become few and far between just because of the level of competition.
So because the SEC failed miserably pretty much in football in postseason play.
Wow.
How do you
let him down easy, Jimmy?
I did. I let him down.
Careful,
easy.
Man.
Failed miserably. How do you see then the SEC resurrecting itself to become that power conference again and not the Big Ten?
Yeah, mix in a win once in a while, Frank.
I mean, thank you guys for that quick notation of humility. Rock, they learned from you very well, so I want to say thank you for that. Gentlemen, I will say this here, though. When you look at what we just saw this past year, I will say the difference in everything was the ability to keep your coaches in play. Like, I really will say that. Like, the SEC, when you lose a Saban and you lose some of the coaches that was there in the SEC, the players aren't the same. You're watching just this carousel of changing in and out of players. The SEC took a beating this year in regards to the postseason play when it comes to, the playoff system. And it was that. And that was good to see, too, in its own right, because we watched teams that, left conferences and then teams that came into conferences end up winning championships. You look at ASU. Who would have thought? I mean, Dillingham, praise God to Coach Dillingham, because he's a great coach and he knows how to run a program and get his guys excited about playing every weekend and out, despite the competition. The SEC took a beating this year, and I'm pretty sure that won't go across. That won't be looked upon this year and the upcoming season as something we got to, they got to fix that. And that's just a kudos to the other conferences that got better.
All right, we got close to 3.5 weeks before the draft. What more can the Cardinals do, or do you feel they should do with free agency or some of the guys that are out there prior to the draft to shore up wherever situation, or just focus on guys that they can draft, come in here and be an impact, or fill some of those holes that free agents they feel may not?
One of the biggest things I would always say, and I've been saying for a couple of years here, is one thing. We have to continually do a better job, unless there's something behind the closed doors, of magnifying the greatness and the leadership quality of Kyler Murray. I just think that if you want the players to come in and show up with all the discrepancies that's stated about him in some way or some form, needs to be assured that he is a great leader and that he will be not only a great player. We cannot deny that he's a great athlete and playing a position where he's been pretty good at. But the other stuff that comes on the table when it comes to leadership, unfortunately, I think that he gets a bad rap for that. And so I think I would love to see the Cardinals do a better job of that, just continually magnifying how great he's going to be. And he's going to be our future leader and what we want to do on and off the field with the Arizona Cardinals moving forward. Bringing in other players, I mean, I saw what we did for our defensive line. We did a hell of a job of upshoring our defensive line and bringing some players in that can kind of really stop the run, which was not a good sight for what we looked like at the end of the season. I would love to see 2 more hot names on the ticket that we can bring in that will bring some, just again, notoriety and some fear to what the Arizona Cardinals are bringing forward in the 25-26 season. That to me would be exceptionally well for if they go out and get some name guys, 2 more name guys they can bring in offensively that will add to what they already have on the board.
Does Amani Cooper do anything for you to bring him in? I mean, he's experienced. He's a veteran. May not have the speed, but there's a name you're just talking about. I think to help out that receiving corps.
You know, I like that. I mean, I don't know how much gas he still has in the tank and how much he really wants to still be moving. This would probably be his 8th system he'd be moving into when it comes to being in the NFL, probably 7th. New system or new team he'd be on playing in the NFL. And that, to me, kind of gets scary, especially when you're at this stage of the game and the end of your career. But I do think we need speed. One thing we lack is not size, because our guys are big. We're looking at 6'3", 6'4" receivers. We're looking at a 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", and our guy, Gregory Dortch, is the anomaly. But I would love to see speed on the outside, because what Manucci's always been asking for is that 45 to 65-yard pass, man, just to get over.
Home run hitter, Frank. Home run hitter.
If we can go out and get 2 of those guys either in the draft and we can get solid on that, I'd be happy with that. I just know, Rob, right now, defenses play. Every defense we've seen in the last 3 years has been one job. If we stop Kyler, we stop them, and that's been on the table since we've seen it.
Frank, as always, thanks for improving the program, buddy. Have a good week.
All right, brothers. Love you guys, man. Y'all have a good one.
You too. That's Frank Sanders joining us on the Right To It. I guess I follow him on his X page, Frank Sanders 81, and he's all over Instagram as well. We got to learn a real one call. That's all. Stephen A. Smith goes off on First Take on the Phoenix Suns on just how bad this team is. Hey, you will hear from that next. Plus, we got ASU Nebraska basketball coming up at 5:30 here on ESPN 620. So we'll tell you about that as well. It's Rock and Manucci with Jimmy B right here on ESPN 620.
It's the championship game.